Video games have always been an interesting media, being one out of many pieces of entertainment avenues providing its consumer a whole new layer with user interaction, with video game developers attempting to sculpt worlds, characters, and gameplay to help players immerse themselves into this part of a living universe, with some sort of limitation of course. Oftentimes these limitations, whether it's because of funding or time constraints, may cause a ton of problems such as the bugs and glitches you're seeing now, or the lack of details and content. In most circumstances, the player base are able to carry the torch, allowing them to bring in improvements thanks to hindsight, to work on these pre-existing media and modify it based on their own preferences, often becoming the subject of re-emerging interest, giving much needed quality of life changes, whether it be something as simple as giving translations, increasing visual clarity and fidelity to arguably make them look on par, if not better than most modern video games, and in some rare cases completely modify the structure of these games by changing or adding enough new content to change the way players would typically experience this compared to its original intention. These types of stuff would be known as modding, a term that has become commonplace within the video game community since the 90s and 2000s, with some of the most important cases of Doom, Half-Life, and Warcraft mods causing the conception of a brand new genre or trend to the industry. But when did modding culture start growing for the racing genre? While there isn't exactly a definitive date or subject known to the masses, modding in racing games really started to pop up around the 2010s, with often simple modifications to the titles such as the black box era titles of Need for Speed. Since then, the tools, skills, and opportunities grew exponentially, especially more so now that we have several racing games heavily dependent on modding for its core audiences, such as the case with Assetto Corsa or BMG. And so for this video, I would like to shine some light on the side of modding for racing games, to showcase the different aspects and styles of mods available with some additional developer insight, and provide new eyes on these projects. And who knows, maybe you'll be interested in modding yourself after this. First one on the list is a project that has been ongoing for a couple of years, developed by Crazy Plays since as far back as 2018. Originally started as a compilation of different mods, Redux would eventually become its own thing with more cars, customization, revamped pursuits, and the addition of new minor crew bosses alongside a plethora of system changes. From the more basic things like graphical changes, which are to be expected with cutscenes receiving the upscale treatment, although for those running on low-end machines, a light variant of the Redux mod is available, keeping the original vanilla textures in with the new content additions. You'll notice some slight differences with this comparison video by Crazy himself. At the very least though, you'd get to see the game in a different camera placement. It makes the races feel more intense as it is, but most importantly, helps you appreciate the look from these new rides alongside their brand new customization features. Every vanilla car is given additional tuning and visual options. Quick Race exclusive cars are now also usable for the career mode, and the addition of several cars from different point of times, some you might recognize from their appearances in previous classic NFS titles, or the customization options coming from as far as Need for Speed Unbound. Thanks to the extended customization features, you can even add neons, modify license plates, and break that wheel with camber options. Most of the customization improvements are a bit uneven, with some vanilla cars getting the general additions, while others get an extremely detailed customization features, as example with this R34. The newly added cars are also subject to receive the most out of these additional features, even more body kits, spoilers to toy around with, and fender options. But that's not all. Customization features previously only available in Underground 2 have also been made available with the kind that will make Exhibit proud. In addition, a batch of preset vehicles are available for Quick Race, bringing along several iconic cars from several Need for Speed titles and featuring most rival crews and known bosses from the game, which you will have to face in the career as per usual, since there's not really much changes to career progression. The most noticeable change comes with the buff towards extra rival crews, making them more of a menace than normal, where they would get decimated and disappear from the game completely. They also got their own unique colors on the map over their usual monotone gray, plus the creation of minor bosses, making each of these smaller gangs a bit more recognizable and survive the onslaught for longer. In addition, cops have been revamped to be more challenging and proactive. It doesn't really change normal career progression, but it's there for those who like playing around with the cops in Carbon's map, or the 100% completionists with the challenge series. So overall, this is a mod which for the most part stays true to the original vision of the game. A great mod for those who like NFS Carbon as it is, but simply wish for there to be more things to play with, while also looking as close to a modern title as it can be. You can also check out the Most Wanted Redux by Crazy as well for similar improvements for that title if you prefer. In a similar manner, Gran Turismo has gotten itself a fair share of mods to enhance your experience. And to be more specific, Gran Turismo 4 by Admeister and every contributor for both their amazing work on the so-called randomizer mod, becoming one of the best alternative methods to experience Gran Turismo 4. Ford GT! You get this car from winning the Gran Turismo World Championship.
No. It's a PTSD fucking Camaro. Yeah, this first round was basically just over.
Hey, that's good.
Of course. Damn it. Yeah, I could have done this first and then got the Lotus.
Are we gonna get lucky? Oh, hell yeah, we got lucky. We absolutely got lucky. Hell yeah.
Fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here with that nonsense. Okay, just get me to the special missions.
Spawning several unique takes and approaches to the game. A simple change, yet its impact can be felt throughout the whole community, changing how car prices work and forcing players to change their playthrough strategies on the fly. A great way to play the game if you're someone like me and many others who played this game way too many times. But how does this mod work exactly?
The way the game works is it stores a few different arrays of different prize cars, and I sort of hijacked the system to define another array which is just every single car in the game, because the game already has a tool that can roll a random number between two numbers that you specify. So if you put 0 and 10, it'll generate a number from 0 to 9. That's just like standard randomization stuff, but it also accepts a seed, so that with the same seed it generates the same thing every time, sort of like the way a Minecraft world works. It was Nenkai and DDM, they both came up with a system that would basically create the seed to be fed into that, so that it was based on the person's username and the internal name of the event you'd just finished. So say you completed the Sunday Cup and your name was Bob, it would just be Bob Sunday Cup and generate a seed from that, and then it puts the seed generated from that into the random number where the minimum is 0 and the maximum is just the number of cars in the game. Before the prize car gets shown on that screen, it just quickly rolls a number, uses that as the number to pull from the array, gets the label of that car, and then that's the car you win instead.
Allowing players to essentially share information regarding certain seeds and the randomized rewards available in each of them. And once it starts, every source of car prizes will provide a set randomized reward based on your seed of choice, turning these randomized runs into sort of a game for the community to jump in and help others with their findings. But hold on, before you look for the mod, there is a catch. This mod does not work on a regular version of Gran Turismo 4, but rather the online beta version of the game, and there is a reason for that.
So basically, online, the simplest reason I chose it was it's a single layer disc. A dual layer disc is a pain to rebuild. If you've ever noticed, when you're on arcade mode, when you cycle through the courses, it just has a static image instead of the animated preview. Those were all cut so that it could fit down onto a single layer disc. The fact that it's a single layer disc is much easier for me to build. It takes a lot of hassle out of the process. It's a 2006 build of the game versus 2004 or 5. It has some new things in it, like it's built on the same base that Tourist Trophy was. So if you imagine, it's more like a later branch of the general Gran Turismo engine.
In the case of a softlock, however, the randomizer mod does not limit players from accessing the dealerships. A regular commodity in the regular game, but here it's often used as a failsafe. The mod itself comes along with upgrades for engine sounds,
The way I make a sound for the game is basically I built a tool that takes these Sony audio files, arranges them into one Gran Turismo file format, and then to create the Sony sounds that go into those sound containers, I'll just use any tool that's used to rip various games. So like whatever I might use to get a sound from Forza, whatever I might use to get a sound from a new Gran Turismo. So I'll get the sound out as a WAV or whatever, do any edits that I need to in Audacity, like trimming it down, listening just to see if it's any good. Then I use a tool called Airwave Studio, convert anything into this Sony format. So I do that, loads of trial and error and guessing and spreadsheet stuff to make it fit into the multiples of samples that it needs to be. Then save that, and then once I've got like 3, 4, 5 or 6 of those, to make one coherent car sound. And then from there it's just you make an engine one and an exhaust one. You can have different exhausts to the different levels, but because most of the upgraded exhausts in Gran Turismo sounded terrible, and I think they were only there for the sake of change, and because it would mean like 3 times the work when I'm just one person doing it would probably be like far too unfeasible. So for the most part, all the sounds stay the same with upgrades, but there might be some here and there where it's like famous ones, you know, like Nissan Skylines. Some stock cars sound okay in Gran Turismo, but then you upgrade them to sport, they sound a little bit more raspy. You upgrade them to semi-race and then race, and they just sound bad. It's just like drony, weird noises. I think it's a better compromise to have one good sound duplicated for every exhaust level than one good sound for stock, and then as soon as you upgrade, it's gone.
The dealership UI, but the randomizer itself was only the beginning, with the true end goal being the Gran Turismo 4 Spec 2 mod, a project dedicated to updating Gran Turismo 4 with countless quality of life features, the ability to add new content into the game alongside many improvements for both gameplay and graphical fidelity. Unfortunately, at the moment, there is no way to fully add new cars into the game thanks to Polyphony's unique modeling method.
It isn't possible to add new cars because there isn't enough of an understanding of the model format to be able to create our own, as far as I'm aware. That is possible right now for 2 and 3, but obviously the file formats change between games and the models change quite a bit. Your car has animated parts, it has things attached at different points and loads of different textures and transparencies and stuff. I just don't think it's possible for 4 right now. It's not to say it'll never be, but I also don't want people to think, oh, he means it's going to happen soon. No.
The most technology has allowed us is the ability to add pre-existing cars from different versions, such as the ones that are only available in specific region-locked versions. Spec 2 itself is still in the works and not available for the public yet, so be sure to give the randomizer a try and tune into Admeister's YouTube and Twitter feed for news and memes to vibe with. In a similar vein to both prior mods, we have a mod which is arguably the definitive way to experience this specific title. Do you remember the iconic title Need for Speed Undercover? With the iconic characters and dialogues such as
That's what I'm talking about. That's how we get things done.
Very dangerous.
carried even further by its incredible gameplay. Well, here's a mod that will fix this game like FlexTape. Undercover Reformed is a mod developed by some of the most dedicated fans of this title who simply wish to see the game at its true potential, to bring attention towards every positive this game had while fixing most of its problems, such as the pits filter and limited lighting day and night cycle, which at the time was massively inferior to its rival Midnight Club LA. According to the Reformed devs, Undercover had the ability to add as many custom visual zones and skyboxes, but likely due to time constraints it's limited into 2 skyboxes and visual presets. Now with Reform, you'll get to take in the Tri-City Bay Area at its best visually, with all of its glorious skybox and shifting weather. To complement that change, we got a modified camera placement for both better racing and sightseeing in case you're ever in the mood. Among these new additions are of course new cars, adding a bunch of some of the more niche economy, tuner or JDM cars you'd normally see in a Gran Turismo game, but also a couple of JGDC inspired cars like this one, and also cars from the previous Need for Speed games such as the Nazca C2, each with their own customization features to keep them on a similar depth with the remaining roster, with a modern speedometer options for better visuals and clarity. The rest ultimately comes down to direct gameplay quality of life additions by revamping handling, enhancing the driving and racing experience overall, reworking AI to make races have a bit more edge to the challenges while also rebalancing most of the game, and the new game modes usually titled as the Reformed race events, putting an optional Dark Souls difficulty for those who truly want a hard plus mod for the game. While most of the changes here sound similar to what's seen in Carbon Redux and GT4 Spec 2, it cannot be understated how monolithic this is by its impact alone. Undercover was not exactly in a good state after its release, necessitated by the fact that Black Box at the time were making PC ports inferior to the console counterparts, elevating this mod into something more than just better quality of life to one that can redeem this game from its infamy. Have you ever wondered what it feels like if Grid would feature professional racers from our current generations? Or perhaps you wish Grid would have more challenging AI without relying on Rubber Band? Well, you'll get that and more from this mod, Grid Extra, a mod for the original Race Driver Grid by Vojak, bringing the return of Grid's cut content from its console counterparts, allowing PC and non-Mac consumers to enjoy the missing pieces of content, such as the Mount Panorama track and 18 new cars, including some of the rarer cars such as the Mazda Furai, while also adding new car engine sounds for a more punchier sound effect. But that's not even scratching the surface yet. The mod also provides a plethora of improvements with a rebalanced challenging career mode, increasing overall costs throughout, but also softened by changes done towards team offers. Speaking of which, most of the teams themselves have also been taken over by some recognizable names from our real-life motorsports scene, other video game titles, or some people you may have already seen quite often on YouTube, including the ability to hire them as well, bearing the iconic Raven West team of course, which in this game has become even more challenging thanks to the challenge showdown locations and new AI behavior. They no longer rubber band, which removes the artificial feeling of difficulty. In exchange, the AI now takes a way more aggressive and precise cornering, putting up arguably some of the best racecraft you have to contend with, although it's still a bit spotty in some instances. What the fuck? Jesus Christ, what happened to them? Oh no, oh no! But no worries, the difficulty option is still available with some new options such as this one. While it's possible to add in new custom variant cars, it's not exactly easy thanks to how the game behaves with errors. And for those of us disappointed by the 12 minutes of Le Mans, changes done to Le Mans throughout the career has doubled the duration, increasing its timer to 24 minutes with boosted rewards to compensate. As of currently, the mod is still in development, so changes may happen between the release of this video and the latest update. If you'd want more accurate details on what's improved, then there's no better way than to directly experience it. It's definitely a recommendation for those who want to try and experience this old racing title in a different light. And speaking of, this next mod will outright change the game so much that it arguably becomes its own different title altogether. I'm of course talking about the Pepega mod. Originally started as a mod for Need for Speed Most Wanted, partially as a conversion mod with tons of quality of life additions, such as the removal of piss filter, bringing a lot of vibrant colors to the stage of cockports, new and replacement content such as brand new cars, cutscenes.
Hey buddy, I think you got the wrong door. The leather club's 2 blocks down.
Challenge series, developer-themed special cars, and balancing, but also partially as a celebration of Kuro HS's community with some inside jokes from his streams.
I need those keys right now.
Hello, Dove_7. The start of the Pepega mod is always a funny story to tell because, like, initially it was mainly just a mod for Kuru, who I worked for at the time as an editor. And since we were doing, like, a bunch of modding content at the time, I was like, hey, maybe I should just make a mod for him because I've seen this in other communities before. So, for example, the streamer Vinesauce also has several community mods specifically for him. I think it was called Repainted. And the Pepega mod was, like, heavily inspired by that. It was kind of like the same idea. And I mainly, honestly, it's actually funny to talk about always. It was mainly a cope working on the mod for me personally. Like, I was just fresh out of a relationship and I was just trying to, like, get my mind off things. So I was just working on this mod for Kuru just to kind of, like, get my mind off of things. And it became, like, super successful, which I still find bizarre. Like, when we upload the YouTube video, I think it has, like, over 500,000 views at this point. It doesn't add up for me. It's a community mod, something I specifically only made for him and his community. But since it blew up so much, you know, it became this, like, weird phenomenon that everyone was somehow interested in. There were also people that wanted to join and help me make this mod, you know, more expansive, because in the beginning it was, like, very simple. It was just a bunch of textures, maybe some text, and that's kind of it. But we wanted to just kind of, like, I always wanted to do kind of more with it, but I like the skills, I like the tools, I like the knowledge. So thankfully people joined and helped out with the project, and yeah, it just kind of, like, snowballed from there.
Even adding his Twitch subscribers at the time as random race opponents, featuring some well-known people from different sides of the racing genre of YouTube. And while most of the baseline plot hasn't really changed much, it does change a bit of context with the voice performance by Kuro and Eden throughout the career.
And a little pleb like you will never change that. Never.
This is the guy that took your Java car and sold it to get a shitty Golf and attached a spoiler to it.
Plus, some of the voice messages here turns the game's atmosphere into something closer to GTA writing. The mod itself was generally one of the best mods for Most Wanted just for the improvements and content addition alone, requiring players, including Most Wanted veterans, to experience the game from a completely different viewpoint, both visually and gameplay wise, as the game becomes faster and more intense compared to vanilla Most Wanted. Thanks to the anniversary update, more content and some much needed changes would occur as well, with most of the changes being outright phenomenal. The ability to completely replace career races with custom-made events has arguably created some of the most unique experiences in Most Wanted, taking players into corners of the map they would normally never go to in a regular playthrough. Not only that, but the vibrant colors of the map has been significantly boosted as well. Additionally, several visual changes have been added into the world, some being obscure collectibles such as QR codes, which does work if you're interested in hunting them down. Yet a storm would be coming soon. 2 years after the launch of the anniversary mod, the Pepega team would once again bring back their magic to quite the unsuspecting title. Pro Street Pepega mod was made with even higher ambitions and goals compared to the Most Wanted version, and it really shows.
So for Most Wanted, we really just intended to, at first it was just like a Kuru community mod, like as I said, specifically for him. But then since we saw a lot of people are interested in it, even people that aren't even familiar with Kuru as a content creator or the racing game community, people just became interested that had no idea about anything. So it just kind of became this more broader shitpost mod, where we just kind of like made fun of car culture, internet culture, racing game culture, like pretty much anything, right? We have this like incredible team of like really talented people. Let's actually try to make something a bit more substantial with like more substance that isn't just like haha funny shitpost, but there's actually like quality stuff in there, like actual quality of life enhancements to the game, improved sounds, graphics, really good car models that are actually solid, all that sorts of stuff. And even what I worked on, like a story that I'm actually sort of proud of, and I think is, you know, for what it is actually not that bad.
To say this mod was a gargantuan task would be an understatement, and I think it's best explained by Eden himself.
Yeah, Most Wanted was a lot easier to develop for. Most Wanted is such a more popular game than Pro Street. There were more tools available to modify certain aspects of Most Wanted, I'm sorry. Whereas Pro Street didn't have those tools, or the same tools didn't work for Pro Street. So for Pro Street, we had to make a lot of our own tools. So for example, to change stuff like car sounds or just audio in general, that stuff was kind of inaccessible. So we had to just kind of make our own tools first so that we can change this stuff. But then you also take into account that Pro Street is a significantly more unstable game.
There was one bug in the game which caused a bit of a memory leak, and that happened even faster in Pepega mod because we used more RAM, obviously. When that happened, the game just consistently crashed after like 4 or 5 hours of game. So what I had to do to fix that was I had to let the game play itself over and over and over and over again, like start a race, exit a race, start a race, exit a race, over and over again very quickly to discover the bug. Eventually figured out, hey, it was car damage. When you disable the car damage, it works fine. When you enable the car damage, it doesn't. So I figured it must have been something in there, and eventually I fixed it. Pro Street was one of the buggier games. It was like the second most buggy, the first one being undercover.
It's always like, you know, I think if you've ever modded a game yourself, not even like making mods, but like applied mods yourself, you know how unstable games can get when you apply a lot of mods to a game. And for Pro Street, that was very, very true. Like, Pro Street was very, very unstable.
From the overhauls of every race event being either a direct reference to other racing games such as Gran Turismo, or events tailored specifically for certain content creators, and there's sure a lot of them in here. In a similar manner to the Blacklist change in Most Wanted, every single king of the game also gets changed to fit the new narrative edition, with Kuro and Eden returning with a major role as a continuation of Most Wanted Pepega's conclusion. But what about the important bit to a racing game? Well, the vehicles itself have received massive improvements in, well, pretty much every department. Over double the cars from vanilla now include some of the rare European shitboxes, hypercars, and some more JDM cars with a ton of extensive modifications. Most can be purchased from the dealership as per usual, but others may be locked behind event week rewards or requiring you to find wrecks on certain stages. And speaking of which, every car can now be used for every event, as previously front-wheel drive cars were banned from wheelie events altogether. This limitation has been removed thanks to the addition of drivetrain swaps via the tuning page, including a change in drift physics on top of the new engines for more punchier sounds. And a free look camera for looking after wrecks, keeping tabs on opponents, and to mesmerize your higher poly dream car. Just don't do it during a speed race though. In addition, there are new events with the drag challenges, effectively making drag races into a solo time trial event where the challenge comes from the track selection and obstacle, as the drag racing now takes place on top of a speed racetrack. Then we got sprint events, which are self-explanatory, split into 3 sessions similar to drag races. The main goal is to post the fastest time so the opponent here can be beneficial or a hindrance towards your strategy. To nudge players into experiencing most of what the game has to offer, achievements have been added into the game, with the rewards being exclusive cars and cheat codes. Players can then activate any cheats unlocked at will to either enhance or just straight up break the experience for some goofy moments.
Berkey did most of the work for the car wreck that we have. Car wrecks were crashing the game, and they still do if you try to go to multiplayer in a speed challenge, it'll crash the game. And the basis for the achievements. When I came, most of the framework was there, so I can't really comment on how hard it was was to implement it, but getting it running properly, it took quite a long time. All the achievements, by the way, they have custom conditions, like hard-coded, because we have to monitor so many aspects of the game. We have our own system integrated. So for achievements like Richard Hammond moment, for instance, what I had to do was, okay, figure out how would you detect if a car has rolled and landed on the wheels, right? That's the condition to activate the achievement. So I'm thinking, scratching my head, and the best way to activate it was the roll camera, right? Because when you roll the car, the camera switches positions and tracks your car, or like you're about to total, if you know, in Pro Street. And I used that as the thing to check if the condition was met. So I checked, the camera was activated, and if the camera was deactivated and the car did not wreck, then the achievement should activate. And things like that, many of those little things that I had to detect, some were easy, but the others were a nightmare.
One big improvement to the game comes from its customization feature to the EA track setting, allowing players to set each music to play during menus, races, or both. Applicable to the new additions, but also for the original tracks for those who want to keep the original vibe available, making this one of those mods that can be treated as if it's a massive quality of life experience across the board, and why I would absolutely recommend you try it out for yourself. But before I go, there's a special message for all of you would-be creators with endeavors.
Take modding as any other creative work. It's really not that much different to, let's say, drawing or making videos. It's a creative endeavor, and just go ham. Just do what you find personally interesting. Try to teach yourself the basics on how to use certain tools. Yeah, just have fun with it.
Honestly, just don't be afraid to go for it. Even if it seems daunting, just don't be afraid to either contribute to the existing projects that are already out there, open source. Sometimes you can take the mantle, or just giving it a try yourself. Just try poking around. I did it in Carbon. Turned the sky bright pink because I flipped the value in cheat engine. Just don't be afraid to do that. Things like that can be really, really fun to do.
I was still young when Crash Day first came out in 2006, and there were some cases in that when I completed the game, and I was like, what do these files do? And then it was like, you go into a file and it's like, this defines how much this event rewards. And I'm like, what if I make it so that event rewards much more, and then I can buy all the cars and all the upgrades for them?
I wish there were more people to be able to not only help each other out, but to do more creative and fun things. Just don't be afraid to join in and talk to us. We can give each other some pointers, and just have fun, honestly.
Stuff like that is honestly where the resurgence of interest in the games come from. If I go on YouTube and type in GT4 randomizer, even just across your first video and Kuru's video, combine those, and that's 250,000 views already. So there's a massive renewed interest.
And who knows, maybe you'll get someone to play a game again just because of your mod. And honestly, I think that's personally really gratifying. If something that you makes someone else interact with something again for the first time in a while, I always find that is a huge compliment.
So yeah, if you got the spirit and ideas, give modding a try. Do it with any of your favorite games first, something you're very passionate about, and look up for communities or fellow fans of the game starting from there. And perhaps one day you can be as cool as the people mentioned in this video, as a contributor to the longevity and preservation of old classic video games.